Hello, this is Coach Tim Campsell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to hear their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that achieving success in business is not something that we can do on our own, we recognize the folks that helped us to excel. I'm excited to have a fellow Indiana business owner with us today. My guest is the owner of Mercanus, located in Indianapolis. He's a combat veteran and serves as a board member helping veterans and their families. Please join me in welcoming Arne to the show today.
Thank you, Tim. Glad to be here.
Awesome, Arne. Well, hey, let's start with you introducing yourself and give us a little bit of background on your personal life and your personal story.
Sure, thanks. Best way to start out is I always like to tease about this, that I'm actually GI or government issue. And that's because my parents met in the Army in Germany back in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it's all part and parcel of the family history. I was born in Fort Lewis, Washington. Which is a really cool part of my story because many years later, I got my commission at Fort Lewis, Washington, which is cool. But anyways, grew up as the son of an Army colonel, and my mom is now is a retired registered nurse, and so she was kind of like the drill sergeant in the house, if you will. And great life there. We moved around lots of different places and different countries. And my dad ended up being stationed at Fort Benjamin Harrison when there used to be an active Army post here in Indianapolis, and graduated from Lawrence North High School. Go Wildcats. And spent the first couple of years of my college career at Ball State University before transferring to IUPUI and finishing up there. Which is where I got involved in the ROTC program, and I ended up getting commissioned right after I graduated from college.
Wonderful.
So I've, one of the things that's really interesting point of my life is I have lived, visited, or went to war in 19 different countries on 3 different continents in my life. And it's a pretty cool thing. I did all that, by the way, by the time I was 28.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you how many countries you've been to. That's incredible. Do you have a favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite country other than our own country, but one of the, I have different spots in different countries that was so cool that I can remember. Like going to England. Probably the one thing that always has stuck in the back of my mind are the white cliffs of Dover. I remember taking the ferry across the channel because at the time you still had to take the ferry, and it was in the middle of the night and you could see those cliffs.
Wow.
They were that bright. It was amazing. I think another spot that was really cool was I remember just driving through the mountains, and it was a cloudy day. It was kind of rainy and overcast. Broke through the clouds, and it was like being on top of the world. The sun was out. It was just, the dew was all over the grass. It was just beautiful. I mean, that's all I could say. It was just beautiful.
Wow.
Loved it. So yeah, there were just different spots.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your family.
Well, sure. Thank you. So I'm married. My wife's name is Michelle with 1 L. She is from Bunker Hill, Indiana. Yeah, there's a Bunker Hill here too.
You can't make that stuff up, right?
No, you can't. You can't. It's actually known for a drag strip because Indiana is home to the largest number of drag strips in the United States, believe it or not. And so we have a daughter. Our daughter's name is Faith. Cool part about Faith is she's adopted. She's also from Indiana, which is really awesome. And then we have a dog. His name is Harley, and he's an 11-year-old chocolate lab.
Wow.
Yeah. My parents are still here in the Indianapolis area. I have two older brothers. They're married and they have kids, and they live in other states.
Okay, fantastic. Is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us?
There's one for sure I got to share, and it is a funny one. Even my in-laws have a good laugh when anytime this one comes up. It's the mashed potato story.
Okay.
It was Michelle and I, was our first Thanksgiving, and we decided we were going to host Thanksgiving for her side of the family, and I cut the potatoes up early, which is a big mistake. And I got to tell you, the mashed potatoes tasted nasty. and I get grief about it still to this day, which is okay because I don't make mashed potatoes anymore.
There you go, right?
I help eat them, but that'll be it.
Yeah. So what is it about cutting them earlier that makes them not taste good?
Well, what happened is they'll bruise. So if you peel and start cutting them early, they bruise.
Okay.
And as they bruise, then the color changes, the taste changes, and yeah, you don't want to, just want to throw that out.
So it'll be our little secret that you did that on purpose to get out of the preparation work. So Arne, tell us how your business came about. At what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Well, it's sort of interesting. So while I was getting my MBA at Notre Dame, one of the directors of the program had pulled me aside and asked me what on earth I was doing in a large corporation, because I was working for Anthem at the time. And I asked him why he was asking that question. He said, listen, you really should consider running your own business. So it kind of planted the seed.
Yeah.
Now, my dad, after he retired, did his own financial services business. And my grandfather, after he retired from the Navy, did the same thing.
Okay.
So there's been kind of a history of that. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do that until that little seed got planted, but I wasn't quite ready to jump in and go for it. And it really wasn't until in 2017 when I thought, I want to do something different. And I had a conversation with Michelle about this. And of course, there was a caveat. There's always a caveat with your wife.
Yes.
And her caveat was, okay, I know it's a bucket list, but as soon as this has kind of run its course, you agree to go back and go work for someone else. I said, okay, I got it. I got it.
Nice.
Right. So, I had to swear on a stack of Bibles. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
And go for that. But that was kind of, that was really kind of the start there. I really wanted to get started. And my first client was a friend of mine I've known for over 20 years down in Cincinnati, a healthcare staffing company. Guy named Ken Tracy. And, he's always one of those guys that I have a lot of trust and respect. So it wasn't so much, I did talk to him about going into business for myself. And that's when he said, hey, I want to talk to you about helping us. Yeah. When I did talk to him about it, because he was one of the guys I talked to about lots of different things. Yeah. Okay. In life. You always have those people that are close to you. He's one of them. So.
Well, and what's his name again?
Ken Tracy.
Okay. Wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about your company. Did I pronounce it correct? Mercanus? Is that?
It is Mercanus. That is correct. Yes. Right. So Mercanus is really focused in on providing service solutions, whether we're looking at consulting solutions. And these are really geared toward from my background and areas of expertise where I can always bring people into work. So we're looking at strategic planning and implementation. And I always make sure I put that in there. Business process, engineering, re-engineering. A lot of companies know their processes, but do not document and do not do continuous improvement. And it's not because they don't have any kind of great desire. They just don't do it because it's not high on the list, right? And of course, other things that I can do to help them with their particular business. I also work with staffing companies. Because I have a lot of relationships, I either help them in their business or I connect them with people and do that. I have a line of business called an MSP, which is a managed service provider line of business. Mine's really focused more towards the federal government, so I don't go out and do anything in the private sector on that front.
Okay, fantastic. And how long have you been in business?
Since May of 2017, so not very long.
Yeah, fantastic. So tell us a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, maybe even when you thought you couldn't, and the impact that person had on the outcome of that situation, or just in general for your business journey.
Well, I have so many impact statements. I mean, wow. Probably the very first time in my life is probably where it all began, and it just sort of compounded. This is my mini bear football story. So back in the 70s, after we got back from Ankara, Turkey, a friend of mine said, "Hey, why don't you try out for Little League football?" And I go to go register and sign up. And one of the folks said, "Hey, you're a pretty big kid. Would you consider travel football?" And I said, "Sure." So I signed up to try out for the travel football team. And it was the Lawrence Mini Bears. And I tried out and made the team.
Nice.
And the guy that was coach, his name was Gene Burns. And we always called him Mean Gene Burns. He was one tough coach. And he had favorite exercises, and his very favorite one that we always did every single practice, twice a practice, was the bear crawl. And he did it because people didn't like doing it, and you had to push yourself to do it and to do it the way he wanted it done. And that was the very first time that in my life where I experienced you got to push yourself. And I was pushed hard by this coach. I'm so glad, because every time from that time forward, I've always had people in my life that have pushed me in one direction or another, or said, "Hey, you can do this. Get going. Let's go after this." And it's just been very, very helpful for me all along the way. And just really, you develop a discipline, right? So anytime you hear that, you ask a couple of questions, and if you feel pretty confident, you just do it.
Yeah, awesome, wonderful. So Arne, tell us about what's your biggest learning as a business owner so far?
This is not for the faint of heart. You are when you start out, especially if you do a bootstrap, which is how I did it. You're all in. I mean, this is like playing a game of poker, and you put all your chips in the middle, and you got to play those cards and do your best to play those cards. And that's the number one key to success. In this is understanding that you have to be all in. I think the second part about the learning for me is that relationships really matter more than you absolutely know. And don't discount any relationship that might help to lead you to other relationships that could help you to fortunes in business, fortunes in your community life, civic duties, fortune for your family. I mean, all different ways to look at value, right? And I think those are all part and parcel of being a business owner, to be able to do that. Because if you don't look at it that way, and it's only business, and you're only driven by that bottom line, which we all understand that drive for that bottom line, but that can't be your identifier. And if it is, you are in deep trouble in business. Man, you're in deep trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arne, I love that idea of being open to meeting people, because you never know where an introduction or a conversation or a coffee meeting might go, and so right, it's hard to juggle all the conflicting priorities that we have in life, but being able to set aside time each week to have those meet and greets with new people can be a door that opens that we never even knew was possible, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I can't stress that enough, whether it's something in person in the local market, or you're setting up time on your calendar for phone call or a video call with folks in other parts of the country. If that's how your business run, which I go across the country, so I'm not just a local guy. So you have to do that. I think it's really, it's key. Um, you know, one thing that we all know have our strengths and weaknesses. So where my weakness is, I'm not a lead generation guy. Don't count on me to go out and make cold calls. And I don't do that. That is just not my personality. And candidly, I hate doing that. But I do like to develop relationships. Yeah. And so I try to always talk with people to get referrals, so I can have a warm introduction and just be able to talk with people. You know, it may just be that you now have somebody that's part of your network that you know. Maybe you could tap them a year from now, 3 years from now, 10, whatever it may be. And it just for a variety of reasons, right? It may not be for business. Maybe it's something civically, or maybe it's something for a question in your family. Maybe they have some experience in that. So,
yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned just how hard business can be sometimes, and it's a huge awakening for all new business owners, because the school system teaches us how to be an employee, right? And so our mindset is just hardwired for that. And then when we become a business owner, the hundreds of stories I've heard, you know, it goes something like, hey, I was working for someone else. It didn't seem right that person was making all the money. I was the one, you know, had the expertise in the art of the craft of the trade. So I decided to go out on my own, and then, oh crap. Right? and the oh crap is there are 1,000 things to do that we never even get exposed to when we're an employee. That's like, oh, now I'm responsible for those 1,000 things, and I have no clue how to do them.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think we should take a look at, so a professor of mine from Notre Dame always said it this way, and I thought this was really important. This guy's was a strategy prof, and he said, a company is nothing more than a nexus of contracts. And a contract is nothing more than a relationship that's codified on paper.
Oh, I love it.
And when you think in those terms, to your point, you know, you're not going to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
You just can't, because you don't have the expertise. Yeah. And you just, like, you know, I have an accountant that does all of my taxes. I know how to do the basics of accounting. And I have a software package that I use online that my accountant has access to. If I make a mistake, I get a nice little email, hey, you need to redo this. Yeah. And then at the end of the year, I give all my stuff in, and I'm very detail oriented. So they're able to get all my taxes done, because I'm not going to do my taxes. Yeah. I know how to do them. It's just, that's not good Arne time. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
And that's kind of like a website. So people are like, well, you know, did you do your own website? No. Yeah. I paid for somebody to do it. You know, and I want to make updates to it. So I have to always hire somebody to come in and make updates to my website, because again, that's not what I do.
Yes.
And it's not good Arne time. There's a guy, I cannot think of his name. He always said, you know what, when you look at your business, you have to ask yourself this question. And this is how he put it to me. What is good Arne time?
Yes.
And the good Arne time is, how do you drive revenue? How do you deliver on what you say you're going to do, right? And how are you going to make sure you have sustained the joy of being a business owner?
Yes.
Those three things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things to that point, one of the things that I have all my, you know, clients do is a time study, and the purpose of that is to really understand where are you investing your time, right? And then the great aha moment is, we start to circle things and realize that, hey, these are all, you know, $20, $25 an hour jobs, and your bill rate's $100. So, you know, your opportunity cost is, you know, $75 an hour. So let's get those things off your plate, right?
Yes, exactly. And you know, that's really what you got to do, is get those things off your plate. So you're able to take your bill rate and be able to do the things that you really need to do.
Yeah.
Because you didn't go into business just to make money.
Right.
You went into business to help someone,
Yes.
to fill a
Yes.
need.
Awesome. So, Arne, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. We've talked about that a little bit already today. But tell us about one of your biggest challenges throughout the years and a fellow business owner who, came alongside you or gave you some advice that helped you get through that challenge.
Wow. I think, as I've said, the one thing that I'm not really strong on is lead generation. And the fellow business owner that I had mentioned before, Ken Tracy, Ken's actually the guy that I talked to, and he said, listen, Arnie, you can sell. He said, I get that you don't like to make the phone calls. He said, so what I would recommend is you've got a sizable network. Let's learn how to leverage that. And he kind of talked me through some things that I should think about and how to do that. And that really became the area of discipline for me. So, everybody has their way of doing things. I am, as I said, Tim, I hate the whole concept of cold call. I'm not the guy that's going to walk into a building and go, up to the top floor, work my way down, handing out business cards. That's just not me. So yeah, Ken really helped me on that. And that's, Ken's strength is he could do both. He's just one of those kind of guys. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Arne, if you had to pick 3 people in your business owner journey that were the most, either the most impactful or you're the most grateful for in terms of their help in your business growth, who would those 3 people be and how did they help you?
And I have them in order. So Michelle, my wife, my buddy Ken Tracy, and then another good friend, Mike Whedon. So without spousal support, there's no way a business owner is going to be able to survive, right? You really need that support. And so without her supporting me, there's no way I could do it. Yeah. I'll just tell you that now. She has to be there for me. Secondly, is Ken Tracy. As I said, I've known Ken for over 20 years. He and his wife, Libby, had started their own business. I helped them in their business early on. And then I consulted for them and really helped them to double the size of the business. And they exited about 2 years after I helped them because they got really huge. And then Mike Whedon is another one that helped. Mike is a big time sales guy. I'm going to just call him what he is. And he would have no qualms about being called that. And he's very good. He's not a salesy guy. He's a sales professional. There's a difference.
Yes.
And like me, he has a large network and he helped me to navigate some of the people to, in his network to help me as well. So
fantastic.
Very cool.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. You talked about Michelle and the just the criticalness of having her to support you. I wholeheartedly agree with that. There's times where things just don't go the way that we hoped them to or wanted them to, and nobody really understands that better than, or at least our emotions better than our spouse. And my wife similarly has been there to help me through, licking my wounds and getting back up off the sofa and out it back into the fight. So I can appreciate how important that role is for us.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
So Arne, as we think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see in front of you to be able to reach your goals, and who are the type of people that you're going to need to help you solve those challenges?
Wow. So 3 things that really come to mind for me is you have to continue to look at your offering, and is your offering to the market something that is going to help you to continue to grow? You have to be honest about it. And if the answer is no, by the way, it may be that the right answer is to go out of business. If the answer is no, or maybe the right answer is shift and find something else to offer the market if you can find something, right? Or redesign what you have.
Yeah.
right? Because you need to be relevant in the market. I think that's number one. Number two is lead generation.
Mhm.
And I really cannot espouse that enough. Lead generation, lead generation, lead generation. Most small business owners, and as I've told you already, and I'll raise my hand and be honest about it, suck at lead generation.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of very good lead generation companies out there
Mhm.
that can help you to grow your business. The real question is are you really prepared for what's going to walk in your door? Because they'll get you customers. You got to service those customers. And I think the last piece there is really delivering consistently
Mhm.
uh, across your customers. Uh, if you don't do that, then you're really a mixed bag. And the question then begs itself is, what do you need to do? What changes do you need to make so that you are delivering consistently
Yes.
across the board? And those are, I always have those three things in mind. And the more you look out in the future, the more you have to worry about that. Yeah. And, where do you get the help on these things? I think there's several places. So I was given the advice many years ago that if you're ever going to go into business for yourself, you need to have a board of advisors.
Mm.
And these are men and women that you trust implicitly to run a business, whether they're business owners or not, does not matter.
Mhm.
They're in business. They've shown expertise. They've been able to do things. And these are the folks that you could go to help you time and again to be able to either A, generate those leads, or B, look at your business, looking at your offerings as an example. Are you relevant still? Do you need to make some changes? And, in delivering, what do you need to do to deliver consistently? These are the people that can help you to answer those questions, because that's what they're going to do for you, Tim. They're going to ask you all the hard questions that you don't want to have asked. And guess what you have to do? Answer them.
Yes.
And so you got to pick these people wisely. I wouldn't pick a lot of people. I would say probably 3 to 5 is the most.
Okay.
Any more than that, I think you have too many.
Yeah. Awesome. Lead generation, you've talked about it a couple times. Isn't it interesting that going back to my point earlier of when we're an employee, generally speaking, somebody else does that for us. And so, we get really good at our thing, and the business keeps coming. And then we start our own business like, oh, where are all those leads?
Yes, exactly. Because now you got to go out and find them.
Yes.
They
Yes.
don't just walk in the door.
Yes.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think it was interesting. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine at my gym, and we were talking a little bit. I was asking him some questions about what he was doing for a living, and he said, I'm thinking about going into business for myself. And I said, well, I think that's great. America really is the land of opportunity, and if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can do that. My first question to you is this: do you know how to generate a lead?
Hmm.
And he looked at me and he goes, why are you asking me this question? And I said, because if you can't generate a lead, you're not going to generate income.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the questions you have to answer, and you need to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can't do it, do you have a friend that can help you to do it? And would your friend absolutely help you to do it?
Right.
Or are they just saying it because they're your friend?
Yes.
So this is where the rubber really meets the road. You got to ask and answer those questions, and they're not easy questions.
Great advice.
Not to
And
scare anybody off from doing this, but you really need to be thoughtful about it, or you're going to have a terrible experience as an entrepreneur. And I don't want you to have that. I want you to have a great experience.
I love that advice. It's way harder than most people even assume, right? It's like, yeah, of course I can get leads, but then, right, and then you start working on getting leads. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
This takes a whole lot more effort than I thought it was going to take.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So Arne, Jim Rohn, I love him and his books. One of the quotes that is my favorite is, "We become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with." So as you think about this, is this something that you find exciting? or is this something that makes you nervous from a business standpoint?
Well, I think, when I hear that quote, I think, conceptually I understand where he's coming from, right? There's that influence impact on your business and on you as an individual, because that's really the key, is the influence on you as an individual. I would say that you do become the sum of the people that you're around. So you need to be very careful about who you are around. Yeah. And it's both scary and exciting, in my opinion, because you need to have discernment to make sure you are really linked up with the right people, because there's some shysters out there.
Yes,
No mistake.
Yes.
Yes. So you have to be careful there. But I think what's exciting is being able to connect and work with people that you never dreamed you would. Right? That part's the cool part.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that, you talked earlier about, having your advisory folks. Other people have said to me, hey, Tim, I don't know. I don't really have people in my life that are those 5 people. And I'm like, well, then, what books can you be reading, or, what videos can you be watching? Because it doesn't have to always be physical, people, it can be virtual people as well.
Yes, 100%. I agree with you. And people just need to reach out. It's interesting. So if you take a look at all these different assessments people can take, like the Myers-Briggs, where you can look at the off the chart introvert to the off the chart extrovert. Yeah. And I have a funny story in that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But people that are not in the extrovert category that end up going into business for themselves have to learn how to be an extrovert.
Yes.
And so it's a learned habit, not a natural behavior.
Yes.
If they want to be successful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to have a terrible time. And I just would encourage them not to go there, right, if they're not willing to do it, because it's a discipline, and it's an everyday thing.
Yeah. What's your funny story you were going to tell?
So the funny story on that is, one of my classmates from Notre Dame, at the time he lived in Brownsburg, and he and I drove up and back to Notre Dame for our classes. When we met in person. We were meeting once a month, and then one week at the beginning of every semester. And he's an engineer. So he's the guy that was the off the chart introvert, and he's riding with an off the chart extrovert for over 2 years. And yes, I carried the conversation more times than not.
Nice. Well, Arne, last question here. If there was something catastrophic that happened to your business today, who's the first person you'd call, and what would that conversation be?
So I have 2 people, and I would do it in this order. So the very first person I would call would actually be Michelle. Mm-hmm. And that conversation would just be, here are the facts as I know them. I'm still processing a few more things, and I'd want to get questions from her. And she's a corporate recruiter in her work, so she's really good at asking lots of questions. And then the second person I would call actually would be Ken Tracy, and he would be very similar, and he'd listen to what I'm saying, ask a couple of questions, kind of give me some guidance on his thoughts, and then it would just be up to me to discern and make the right decisions.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Arne, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people in your journey that have helped you along the way. If they were all on this show today, what would you want to say to them?
I want to say to them, first and foremost, thank you very much. Without you, I'm not doing it.
That's awesome. Wonderful. Well, Arne, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks for being on the show with us. Really appreciate your insights and your wisdom sharing with us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Tim. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show. I really appreciate it. And it was great talking with you. Yes,
yourself as well. And I just enjoyed your funny stories just as much as your insights. So thank you for bringing some humor to the show today.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I always like to laugh at myself.
To everyone who tuned in today, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread this movement by liking the show and posting about it on social media. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.